Hello and welcome back to another video. Today we are diving into MicroStrategy and we're going to be looking at how they are somewhat setting a bit of a precedence for how companies and publicly traded companies are holding Bitcoin and digital assets as part of their treasuries and how they've been doing that for the past number of years. So as always, before we jump into the main topic, please make sure to drop a thumbs up on the video below if you enjoy it. Please make sure you're subscribed. We are dropping tons of new videos every single week to stay on top of everything here in the fast-moving Bitcoin and crypto space. Make sure you hit the bell notification icon so you can get notified when those videos drop in order to hit all of your crypto goals. So let's jump into today's topic. And if you're not familiar with MicroStrategy, they are a publicly traded company who mostly focused on the area of business intelligence before pivoting to be a very large holder of Bitcoin as part of their treasury and company reserves. And they continue to basically stack as much Bitcoin as possible. And their CEO, Michael Saylor, is a very adamant Bitcoin bull. And they have now, as of, I think about February 7th, 2024, MicroStrategy holds over 190,000 Bitcoin. Not $190,000 worth, but 190,000 Bitcoin. And what they did was basically driven by Michael Saylor. They made a strategic decision in 2020 to begin accumulating Bitcoin as part of their company reserves. And since Q3 of 2020, they have been slowly but steadily increasing their holdings of Bitcoin, very much in a dollar cost averaging fashion, as we'll see on the chart in a moment. But since Q3 of 2020, they have began with accumulating about 38,000 Bitcoin and have built that all the way up to 190,000 Bitcoin held by MicroStrategy as of Q1 2024. And basically the way they went about it was just slow, steady, and consistent investment in purchasing Bitcoin at all of these different price targets. So even throughout the entire bull run in 2021, they kept accumulating more Bitcoin. You can see even at the height of the bull run, they were still accumulating Bitcoin over 50k. They accumulated 19,000 Bitcoin at 52k. They accumulated on the pullbacks when it pulled back down to 37k. They accumulated another 13,000, and even all the way up to 59,000, they accumulated another 7,000. And then over the course of all of 2022, as Bitcoin was in a downtrend, they continued to accumulate in the $40,000 range, in the $19,000 range, in the $17,000 range, and even when it was very much at its bottom at the $16,000 range. So it's interesting to think about this strategy from MicroStrategy and how they have accumulated Bitcoin consistently over this period of time, and the sheer amount of Bitcoin that they hold, and how that has actually impacted the share price of MicroStrategy as a publicly traded entity, and how they are very much paving the way for potentially how a lot of other publicly traded companies will begin to think about holding Bitcoin as part of their treasuries and using it as a strategic means of growth. So this chart is just outlining the performance of MicroStrategy versus other assets since MicroStrategy began accumulating Bitcoin in 2020. So we can see that the MicroStrategy share price has even outperformed Bitcoin itself at 305%. I think this particular chart is a few months old. We'll look at the actual chart in a moment, but MicroStrategy shares and the stock itself has outperformed Bitcoin since it started accumulating Bitcoin at 305% up since it started doing so. Obviously, it has vastly outperformed the S&P 500, the NASDAQ. They've had growth of about 48 and 42% respectively since Q3 of 2020. Some of the big tech stocks, even though Microsoft, Google, Meta, Apple, Netflix have all performed decently well, MicroStrategy has done 3 times better than that. And then even some of the enterprise software stocks like Oracle, IBM, SAP, MicroStrategy has still outperformed all of those. So MicroStrategy somewhat served as almost like a proxy for people to get exposure to Bitcoin before the approval of the recent Bitcoin ETFs. If institutions or investors wanted to gain exposure indirectly to Bitcoin without buying the asset itself, MicroStrategy was almost acting like a proxy for those people to do so because of the sheer amount of Bitcoin that MicroStrategy held. And again, this chart I think is a few months old, but even if we look at the actual chart for MicroStrategy's performance since Q4 of 2020, we can see that the share price is up over 450% since Q4, since about Q4 of 2020. So it obviously peaked up much higher at the peak of the previous bull cycle for Bitcoin when Bitcoin was hitting all-time highs. MicroStrategy's share price got up above the $1,200 range. Obviously, it's come back down since then, and over the course of the past 12 to 18 months and the crypto bear market. But since the end of 2022, it has been on a very steady uptrend. And it's interesting, if you even look at the Bitcoin chart, it has a very similar trajectory here since that December of 2022. So it's an extremely good case study, I think, for how the performance of a traditional stock can be impacted by their reserves and the reserves that they hold in an asset like Bitcoin. And MicroStrategy are the number one public entity that own Bitcoin in terms of the amount of Bitcoin that they actually hold. So MicroStrategy have 190,000 Bitcoin as of the start of February 2024. Interestingly, many of the businesses on this list you will see are actual Bitcoin mining companies. So Marathon Digital, Galaxy Digital, and a few others here are Bitcoin mining companies. So naturally, they obviously have a large amount of Bitcoin in their reserves because all they're doing all day, every day is mining Bitcoin. But the likes of MicroStrategy are not a mining company first and foremost, and they have accumulated this amount of Bitcoin because they believe in the vision of the technology. They understand the technology, and Michael Saylor understands where this entire space is going and has used Bitcoin to grow his business. And even just on an earnings call, I think last week, they are talking about how they are going to be building a lot of different technology out on Bitcoin itself and positioning MicroStrategy even more deeply in the entire Bitcoin ecosystem. So a few others on this list, like Tesla and Riot Platforms, are also accumulating large amounts of Bitcoin in terms of how much they are holding as part of their reserves. But MicroStrategy is by far and away the largest public company that holds the greatest amount of Bitcoin. So will we be seeing more and more companies begin to accumulate Bitcoin as part of their treasuries and as part of their reserves rather than holding large amounts of cash in the bank potentially? Will we see more and more public companies delving into holding Bitcoin, Ethereum, Ripple, other assets, other digital assets as part of their treasuries? That remains to be seen, but I think MicroStrategy is very much leading the way here and on the bleeding edge of everything that is going on in the crypto space in terms of paving a path for others to follow. So as always, if you enjoy these videos, please make sure to leave a thumbs up below. Please make sure to hit the bell notification icon if you want to get notified. We are dropping new videos, multiple videos every single week, so you're going to want to get notified. Make sure you hit the bell notification icon. And as always, we will catch you in the next one.